Good evening. I'm John Bailey. This is People to be Heard, the program where people who have something to say have their say. And tonight we have with us from WESTPAC, the Nada Cotter, who's the executive director of WESTPAC, and Zelson Sanchez on my far right, who is youth coordinator, and they are here to discuss the social forum coming up at the end of March. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, thank you very much, John, for having us on your TV show. We really appreciate it. As you mentioned, I'm the director of WESTPAC. It's a 45-year-old social justice organization here in Westchester County. And I've been working with other organizations in planning the Westchester Social Justice Forum of 2019, which is basically a place where we invite the various movements and campaigns for social justice in Westchester County to come together, to learn from each other, to inspire each other, to show our solidarity with the different social justice movements in Westchester County, and with the intention of building the progressive movement for social change in Westchester County. So this will happen on Sunday, March 24th at SUNY Purchase College from 12:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. And there will be an opening plenary with a keynote speaker. There'll be workshops on a wide range of social, environmental, economic, and environmental, and social, racial, environmental, and economic justice issues that are very relevant, criminal justice issues as well. And then we'll have a closing ceremony right at 5:30.
I see. What makes this year's forum so important?
Well, just to step back a little bit, this whole word social forum, it started in June 2001 in Brazil. And it started in response to the World Economic Forum, where every year the 8 richest countries in the world get together in Davos and create policies that affect the billions of people who live in this world. And
Not necessarily for the better.
Not necessarily for the better. And so what happened in the global south, and in this place in Brazil, grassroots leaders from across the world said, wait a minute, why should the 8 richest countries in the world get to decide policy for all of us? The ordinary people should be at the table, and we should be part of coming up with solutions to the crises that affect all of us. So that year, 2001 in June, was the first World Social Forum, and thousands of people came. This movement spread across the world, and in June of 2007 in Atlanta, Georgia, was the first ever United States Social Forum. And thousands of people came from across the United States to Atlanta, Georgia. Westchester County and WESTPAC sent a delegation to that first social forum. And then we were so inspired by the social forum that in 2009 we organized the first Westchester Social Forum at the White Plains High School. And the following year there was the Detroit, the second U.S. Social Forum in Detroit. We also sent a delegation. And then since 2017, members of this planning committee that you'll get to meet, myself, Zelson, and others, we've been planning annual Westchester Social Justice Forums.
Yeah. Who are the key speakers?
At the Social Forum? Well, we have Juan Gonzalez with Democracy Now! Will be one of the keynotes in the opening plenary. He's the co-host of Democracy Now! It's a internationally well-known independent news network, and he will be speaking about the importance of independent media in social justice work and in general.
Such as White Plains Television.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is the focus of the workshop? Is there any particular real issue?
So I think this year, something that Nada didn't mention is that the social forum is a place where regular Westchester residents that aren't usually involved in social justice work, that aren't usually familiar with nonprofits or organizations, are able to come and see that we offer a lot of different opportunities for people to be a part of the community and to be a part of the change. Because right now I think everyone wants to see some type of change. So I guess the focus would be working together and bringing people from all different spectrums and all different backgrounds, and each one has something to bring to the table, to come together and be like, hey, I know how to do this, you know how to do that, we both care about the same issue, let's see what we can do about it.
Mm-hmm. And then what happens during the course of the year? Is there any follow-up on particular actions?
Well, we're always active around different issues, and each of the organizers has their own topic that they're most familiar with, and I guess with this, you just have to connect with the organization that you feel closer to, and they will follow up with you. They're able to take your information, you can take information from them, you can see what other events they're doing, and it's just depending on what interests you have that will lead how your year will go through and how active you're willing to be.
Yeah.
Zeltsin is representing an important organization from Portchester, and she and her mother are also offering workshops. I was wondering if she could just take a minute to talk about those two things.
Okay, give us the plug for your workshop.
So I'm indigenous, I'm from Mexico, and my mom will be doing a workshop called The Tree and Its Ancestral Healing Properties, and we're going to be talking about nature and how we should be connecting to nature even in these times, because as activists we put out so much energy. We use so much of our personal time to work on these issues that are negatively impacting our communities, that it's time to be like, hey, I need to take a minute too. And with my mom's workshop, we'll be talking about the pine tree and how you can make some sweet almond oil, pine tree oil.
Oh.
And it's going to be interactive, so you get to make your own oil, you get to take it home, you get to figure out, how can you regain your energy back from nature, and it's going to be pretty cool.
How many workshops are there?
12?
12 altogether. And there's 3, so the outline, and we have these postcards, if anyone would like to help us distribute them widely, they're available in the WESTPAC office. So
At 77 West Terrytown Road.
Suite
Where we're
2W.
speaking to you from tonight.
White Plains 10607. All right. So Sunday, March 24th at SUNY Purchase College in the Music Building, at 12:30 p.m. there will be over 35 organizations that are tabling. So as Zeltsin said, if you're currently not connected to any organization but would like to see what's available, what's out there in Westchester County, this is an opportunity to meet dozens of local, socially justice conscious organizations. So from 12:30 to 1:30, you have a chance to go through the hallways on the ground level of the music building at Purchase College, and then at 1:30, just upstairs in the recital hall will be the opening plenary with artists, with Juan Gonzalez, with the Peace Poets, with Soulfire Farm, and then another 30 minutes for networking, and then 3 p.m. there's a workshop session, 6 workshops, and then at 4:15 p.m. there's the second session of workshops. All of this information is available at westchestersocialforum.org. And we actually have 3 other members of the planning committee here that I'd love for them to talk about their contributions to the planning and implementation of the social forum. So if we could have the next 2 people come and speak with you, that would be really wonderful.
And now we are joined by Stephanie Lowe, to my immediate right, who's going to be talking about organizing the workshops and workshops she's doing, and to my far right, Delia Marks of WESTPAC, who's going to talk about the effort to have New York State issue driver's license to undocumented people. So first of all, Stephanie, you've been doing this for 3 years, I understand?
Yes.
Right. How'd you get into it?
I got involved after the last presidential election. I was looking to see what organizations were acting around the issues of social justice. So that was my initial involvement. I've worked for 25 years with another nonprofit called the National Coalition Building Institute, and they do work around leadership training and intergroup relations and taking on discrimination, and so I'm a facilitator and consultant for that organization, And as in that particular role, I'm going to moderate two of the panels that we're offering at the workshop, two of the workshops
And
itself.
what subjects are they?
One of them is looking at how hate speech has manifested in Westchester County in particular, and what it looks like in recent times, and how we can address it. And one of the things that we have really consistently tried to do with the forum is to not just introduce issues, but to empower people to know that there are ways that people can get involved and actually make a difference.
And sort of figure out how to help people rise above
Exactly.
the natural gut reactions encouraged so much by the media today.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And the second workshop is also very much connected to, there's a lot of dialogue about concern about justice for Palestinians and also Israelis. And one of the methods that is talked about frequently in the press is the boycott, divest, and sanctions movement of Israel for their policies toward the Palestinians. And so I'm going to moderate a panel of balanced opinions.
And the effects of it.
Well, we want to talk about are there other solutions, and why people feel so strongly about it. So the goal is to have a productive and civilized dialogue.
Okay. And now let's go to Delia Marks, who has perhaps one of the most fascinating and current workshops, and you are going to be working on the effort to give drivers privileges to undocumented persons in the state. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, indeed. You know, it is a reality in our county that there is a lot of immigrants, and many of them do not have the proper documents that would allow them to take out a driver's license to be able to drive safely in our roads. So this is not only an issue of allowing allowing the immigrants to drive for their necessities, you know, to school, to work constantly, especially in this county where the public transportation leaves a lot to be desired. So it's not only giving them that possibility, but it's also an issue of safety for everybody else as well that is driving on our roads. To get a driver's license, you have to get educated and know what the rules are, and you have to have an insurance, and you have to, and so that is actually a safety measure for everybody. If you are in an accident, you know, the other person is not going to be afraid of being deported or whatnot. It's going to stay and it's going to do the proper paperwork that is necessary.
How does WESTPAC feel how that issue can be resolved between?
Well, it's very easy to resolve.
Legally and
well, actually, this is part of a much larger movement that is trying to convince the government of New York State that this is a good idea, that this idea of providing driver's license for all residents, regardless of their immigration status, is something that will be of benefit to all. So we are providing a workshop on that particular issue that we know is very important for our immigrant neighbors.
And the ill-fated former governor attempted to do exactly that a few years ago, and it failed miserably. And how do you think the atmosphere has changed?
Well, we're hoping that the atmosphere did change, especially because of the very strong and very cruel actions of the current federal government against the immigration population. So specifically in Westchester, there is a movement to provide help and to provide support for our immigrants that we know are law-abiding residents. They are our neighbors. They have been here for many, many years. They are here working. They are here part of our schools. They are part of our community.
Now we're joined by Diane Torstrup and Nada Carter again. And you represent Westchester for Change. And Nada was telling me that you have made considerable progress with legislation through WESTPAC's efforts. So these forums are just not forums. They actually work. So tell us about the progress.
Okay, first of all, I want to say about Westchester for Change, we're a grassroots organization. We founded in 2012 after the Obama victory. We met in the working for Obama and decided that we would form a group and we would continue with the progressive agenda and mainly use, our main thing is education. We hold forums too. And yes, there has been progress made. We've formed a coalition of groups. And the groups, we've made several things in Westchester. For example, paid sick leave. There were 125,000 workers in Westchester who had no sick time. Mm-hmm. So now the law, it was passed by the legislature, and right now we're still working on the implementation of it. We're also working along with WESTPAC now on bail and discovery. That would be no bail for most crimes, and a discovery given to people at arraignment so that they're not surprised, and making people plea bargain for no reason. Westchester for Change's last forum was on voting rights, and it was very successful, and we support all the voting changes. And we definitely support small donor matching, which we haven't gotten yet. And what we do is we educate people about the issue, and then we charge them with finding a way to get involved.
If someone wants to get involved with Westchester for Change, what number do they call?
Well, they can like us on Facebook, or they can email westchesterforchange@gmail.com. It's 4, the number 4, the email.
Westchester
for change
right.
@gmail.com.
Okay. Now, there is an issue that has come up very recently in the last 7 or 8 months, is that two corporations in White Plains dismissed SEIU 32BJ workers from their jobs, violating Westchester County law, the Displaced Persons Act. And this is now sort of becoming an unfortunate trend.
Yes.
Is there something that you told me you were affiliated with the AFL-CIO? Is there an effort towards addressing this issue among corporations?
There absolutely is. They've had several demonstrations in front of the buildings and with the workers. And it's also, from members of 32BJ, they're trying to address the situation, and through the legislature also, to make the laws stronger so that this cannot occur.
Yes, well, what happens according to the SEIU is that firms from completely outside of the year pitch a very low price to the corporation that buys a property and say, we can clean your building cheaper, but you don't know who their workers are, which I think is a big issue, and you don't know what you're going to be getting as far as service goes, but you do get the low wage, and it's disturbing.
It is very disturbing. I think that possibly, again, as I said, with education, I think we do have to educate the building owners who are calling in these services too, and also let them, with no uncertain terms, know that Westchester County will not stand for this.
Mm-hmm. Is there any efforts legally to...
I am not aware of
not yet.
any.
Not yet. Neither am I, to tell you the truth. Now we're back, joined again by Nada Cotter, the Executive Director of WESTPAC, and Zeltsin, I'm sorry, messed that up.
Sanchez.
Selson Sanchez.
Zeltsin Sanchez.
Yeah.
Zeltsin Sanchez, did I get that?
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you. All right. But right now, we are just a few days away from a affordable housing forum that was held very recently, but prior to doing the show. And I'd like to ask you, what is the state of affordable housing in Westchester? How many more units are theoretically needed? And where are we?
Okay. Well, when we spoke last week, John, you asked me for some data about housing in Westchester
Yes.
County. And I actually saved this very informative article from 914 Inc. It's a magazine that's published quarterly in Westchester County. And this is an article by Devin Sullivan. And he talks about housing, and he says that the rental vacancy rate in Westchester County in 2013 was 4.6%, which means that it's almost completely full. In other words, all the available rentals in the county are almost completely full. And he says that in 2017, almost 40% of all of Westchester residents are renters, meaning that we're a county of 1 million, so it means about 400,000 people are renting and 600,000 people are living in a home that's owned by themselves, or an apartment that's owned by themselves.
Or with their parents?
Or with their
Yes,
parents. Now, there's a growing gap between what renters can afford. So we talked about this 30% of one's income, take-home income. In general, a rule of thumb is that people should spend no more than 30% of their
Yes,
income.
that's the
But
way it was in my day. Yeah.
What we're actually looking at is that there's a huge gap. So the rent gap, so for example, this shows you the trajectory of how rents have been rising in Westchester. From 2005, the average rent was $1,316. In 2017, 2 years ago, it was $1,706. Affordable rent, based on the incomes of the people who live in Westchester County, an affordable rent back in 2005 would be $788, and 2 years ago would have been $949, based on the formula of not paying more than 30% of your monthly income on rent. The rent gap has grown from $528 a month in 2005 to currently, well, 2017 data, $757.
And what is the rent gap?
That is the gap between what 30% of your income is versus what you're actually paying for rent. So this is telling us that on average, a family in Westchester is paying over $750 a month more than what is considered affordable.
Whoa.
So these statistics show that Westchester County needs tens of thousands more very affordable housing units and affordable housing units. So, and I know that Zeltsin's been doing work in the village of Portchester on this issue.
Yeah, so in Portchester, the Sustainable Portchester Alliance released this Stay and Thrive campaign. It's a set of policies that we want the trustees to sign on to, saying, you know, we want union labor, we want affordable housing, we want community spaces, we want community benefits agreements. So one of the policies that was in it was including 30% of affordable housing into any new development that's coming to Portchester, because something that we've noticed is that development comes to Portchester, New Rochelle, Mamaroneck, Yonkers, White Plains, and we give them out handouts. We give them handouts, and it's like, here's all this land, build whatever you want. You're going to be able to build luxury apartments with luxury stores at the bottom, and it's not a good deal. It's not a good deal for the people that are living here. So,
Now, we had recently 750 affordable housing apartments built in Westchester to comply with the HUD settlement. And have those all filled up already?
Whenever anything affordable comes on the market, it's snapped up because there's a desperate need in Westchester County. We actually need more public housing in the county, even though the trajectory has been to dismantle public housing and to create this mixed income housing, which, you know, it sounds very good for marketing purposes, but I'm a little concerned. I want to make sure that no one has been displaced as a result of the replacing of public housing with this mixed income housing. The black population in the city of White Plains, according to the last two censuses, from 2000 to 2010, shrank by 10%.
Yes.
And many people believe part of that reason is the gentrification that's been happening in the city of White Plains, that housing is less affordable, especially for the African American community, who by and large, as a result of institutional racism in terms of employment and all the other social indicators, their incomes are lower, not by any fault of their own, but simply because of these social economic arrangements, so that they're the ones who are harmed when housing becomes more expensive.
And so another thing to add to that is that not all affordable housing is actually affordable.
No.
Is it affordable to me, or is it affordable to someone that gets paid way more? So that goes to the AMI, the area median income of what housing could be. So
Yes.
in Portchester, we're one of the poorest villages in Westchester County, but Westchester County is one of the most, it's one of the richest counties in New York. So how are you going to compare the richest county area median income to one of the poorest villages inside of it? And when Portchester's building is developing and they're including affordable housing, they're using, they're saying, we're making it, we're using, you know, Westchester area median income numbers, but that doesn't match up to the people that are actually working and living there.
And it actually assures, if you use the 80% rule of AMI, White Plains is trying to change that. New legislation just introduced in the last week or two. And what's interesting though is if you lower it down to 50% of median income, this is making it more open to many other income classes. And it remains to be seen whether that will be effective, because the developer can buy out,
Yeah.
you know, by just either buying out or 6%, or just use 6% if he goes with a 50,000 median income. I don't know how really intelligent that is, because what you're making it easier for the developer, whoever they are, to put together an affordable housing package that makes much more money for the developer.
Well, that's where the community has to create a community benefit agreement and has to make a contract with the developer saying, you know, if you're going to come and build in my village, I want public space, I want green spaces, I want it to be built by unions, I want it to have this amount of affordable housing at this AMI, and our local trustees and you know, candidates should be advocating for that, but they're really not.
Okay, well, Nada Cotter and Ms. Sanchez, you have been heard, and don't forget about the forum coming up on
March 24th, Sunday at 12:30 p.m. at SUNY Purchase College in the music building, and everyone should park in the W2 parking lot. We are asking everyone to register in advance at westchestersocialforum.org. That way we can send you your parking permit for the afternoon. So it's important to register in advance.
Okay. Well, thank you. John Bailey, good night for People to Be Heard.
Thank you, John.